Hello everybody, Representative Derek Kilmer here, welcoming you back to another edition of my Ask Derek video series, where I open up my mail and answer a question or two from folks back home. This month, Barbara in Bremerton wrote in to express her anger and disappointment over the talk about another potential government shutdown. Barbara, I understand how you feel. For the second time in 2 years, Congress continues to play a dangerous game of political brinkmanship. We just narrowly wrapped up a spending measure to fund our federal agencies until December. Honestly, it's hard for me to explain the inexplicable. Imagine if a business had a management disagreement. Would the solution be to simply turn out the lights? No way. And yet once again, we saw members of Congress proclaim that if they don't get their way on specific policy matters, they won't support a funding bill. That's right, zero. Our region can't afford refusals to compromise. Our region can't afford another harmful government shutdown. 2 years ago, we saw the impact of a 16-day government shutdown in our region. It wasn't pretty. We saw workers at our naval installation and at neighboring Joint Base Lewis McChord face furloughs. At the time, I spoke to realtors who had closings fall through because of those furloughs. We saw the Olympic National Park shut down, hurting employees, tourists, and the local businesses that depend on them. Local tribes, social service providers, and others faced funding interruptions. And the damage wasn't unique to our area. Nationwide, we saw this shutdown cost our economy more than $24 billion. Crab fishermen in Alaska lost thousands of dollars a day in revenue, and the Small Business Administration couldn't review around 700 applications for $140 million in loans. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So today, I'm saying that it's time for Congress to act like adults. It's time to end the grandstanding and take care of our nation's finances. This shouldn't be hard to do. We shouldn't face threats to turn our federal government's lights off just to advance a policy priority. And I'll tell you, I'll keep pushing for common sense and more responsible budgeting. Related to a government shutdown is Congress's continual failure to lift the sequestration caps on our nation's budget. Catherine in Tacoma raised this in a letter to me. For those of you who haven't followed this, sequestration was put into a law called the Budget Control Act. It was included as a poison pill to force Democrats and Republicans in the House and in the Senate to come together and support a smarter approach to our nation's long-term fiscal challenges. It wasn't put there as an idea that it was good policy. It was intentionally intended to be so non-strategic, so thoughtless, that it would force folks in D.C. to work it out. And unfortunately, Congress swallowed the poison pill. Again, no family and no business during difficult budget times would blindly make across-the-board deep cuts across the board. They would prioritize. They wouldn't depend on gimmicks, and that's what sequestration is. It's a gimmick. I've always said that sequestration is a Latin word for stupid, and that continues to hold true. If we lock those deep spending caps in place, that means we have to do things like make deep cuts to infrastructure investment and education and national research, those things that are critical to keeping us one step ahead of our competitors. It also leads to proposals like one that went through the House Appropriations Committee that hindered FEMA, our Federal Emergency Management Agency's pre-disaster mitigation funding. That's a program that's critical to state and local governments to invest in prevention and protection against severe storms and disasters. Funding for this vital program would be set at just $25 million for the entire country. That's a more than $175 million cut for the president's budget. Congress needs to do better. Congress needs to end these harmful across-the-board cuts and focus on how we can build a better future for all Americans. So please know that I'm continuing to add my voice in hopes of finding a smarter path forward, and we'll keep at it. So thanks for tuning in, and please keep the mail coming.